and the General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, where I spent some time interviewing people in the military because I wanted to get the military perspective on this. And that's where I learned one of the most interesting aspects of the debate over the use of these companies, which is the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. And if I get into this now, I'll be here for the next 2 hours, so I think right now we'll leave that. Maybe somebody in the audience will ask that question. But anyhow, and then I take you to Congress and several congressional hearings and some people in Congress who've been trying for greater accountability. I take you to New Mexico, to an interesting place where there are security contractors being trained. And I introduce you to people within the industry, like I said, in the military, people in the military, in Congress, people in the industry who've been involved in it from the earliest stages, including some of the journalists who've been following it, like David Eisenberg, who's sitting right here. But what I've tried to do, and hopefully I've succeeded, is to pull together the strands of this very large story and to show you the components of the evolution of the industry, the rise of it and the spread, and to put a human face on those components. I also take you to the story of a U.S. Special Forces operative who was shot by a U.S. Private military contractor in Baghdad. And so that story. So there are, and I introduce you to several companies that I think are quite interesting in their success. One thing that is very important to me, when I was saying earlier on the road there, I've learned misconceptions. I've also learned that there is a great deal of interest in this topic. People want to know, they want to go beyond Blackwater, they want to go beyond the headlines, and they want to know what this industry is about and to what degree are we reliant, what part of our defense and security is part of it, or is done by these companies. And oftentimes there is an image that, and this is probably from my pulling together the details of the book into 3- and 5-minute radio spots, which have been great. Thank you, radio. But what I don't want to happen is any sensationalizing on this. One of my quests in this book is to tell a compelling story about something that is part of our history and part of world history, is a result of globalization and is part of the privatization trend and evolution of privatization and move of privatization into various arenas. And for you to see that by following this industry and by understanding it better, you can see a shift in the conduct of war. You can see a shift in our defense strategies from military missions into stability and security operations. You can see the greater use of contractors, for example, in AFRICOM. Recently, the U.S. Authorization Act, Defense Authorization Act, had a report attached to it, one for 2015, about the need for greater monitoring of private contractors in AFRICOM, which is our unified command in Africa. It's something that is going to continue evolving and growing. And, you know, it shows, like I said, the shift in the conduct of war. It also, it shows, by some accounts, the beginning of the fading of the nation state. These are international companies. It shows the operation of, borderless, they operate in a borderless business environment. And in the book, it's a nonpartisan book, and it is a fair, hopefully a fair analysis, because I get on the inside of the military, the inside of the industry, and also I've interviewed some contractors, and several in fact. And so, you know, the part of the misconception is that they're all bad. And if you, when you read the book, you'll see there's several congressional hearings included in the book. And one of them was in 2011, a hearing that was focused on the exploitation of contractors. And some of the problems with their health care, their food, their lodging in certain situations. So, because what you have is, in this country anyhow, when there is, or in all nations, when there is a contract that's given out, there are layers of subcontracts. And so the subcontractors were addressed largely in that congressional hearing, which is really fascinating. One of the big questions on the road was, which of course was something I was asking all throughout my research and writing, and which has been of great concern and should be of great concern to all of us, actually. In a couple radio shows, call-in shows, people would say, why should we care? That is a really big question. You know, why should we care? If somebody else is doing our defense and security, you know, providing it, some of these companies, like I said, I've been fair. Some of these companies are excellent. I mean, the excellent companies don't want the bad companies. They don't want the headlines about bad behavior. You know, they've been working on an international code of conduct because this is a bona fide industry. But why should we care? In this question lies the answer. Because why would we be asking that question if there wasn't a level of indifference? You know, why should we care? I could actually be up here for another hour to tell you why you should care, but I'm not going to force you to care. But you need to care for several reasons, I think, and I tried to summarize this. You know, you put an author of a 300-page book in front of a microphone for 20 minutes, and a major risk. So it's up to the author to figure out how to condense some of the most important details. Well, and to me, I could talk about several questions on the road, but this one is the one I care about the most because of the fact that it does show indifference. The reason that we need to care, of course, is partly because we need, as citizens of a democracy, to know the impact of war. And if we don't, we need to know, we need to ask for more transparency. We need to ask for more monitoring and accountability. And in the book, you'll see the efforts toward that in this country and, as I said, internationally. But we need to have more transparency. We need to know what the role of these of private contractors going forward in contingency operations will be, because we need to know in the defense and security of our nation or our neighborhoods. You know, where do these people come from? Who trained them? What companies are they working for, so that we can learn more details about this industry that, as the Wartime Contracting Commission, after 3 years of study in their report in August 2011, declared that we are over-reliant on private contractors. That included the vast stretch of private contractors in contingency operations, but with a large focus on this industry. We can't just look the other way. We can't just say, okay, you do our defense and security. In several very passionate people in the military, I interviewed people very passionate on this topic. You know, you can't, you have to feel something to win a war. You have to feel connected. The citizens of a democracy must feel connected to the defense of their nations. At the very least, they need to know who's doing it. When we're told the casualties of the Iraq War, this is a perfect example, we were not told the contractor casualties. And between the spring of 2009 and the, I think the spring of 2011, summer of 2011, the contractor casualties in Iraq exceeded traditional military. We need to know that. The time when we need to know it because I could give you many statistics here, but we need to know it because that's the only way we can, as citizens, understand the full impact of war.